execution of this movement. We're going to be laying face down on the floor. And when you do this movement, I always encourage my athletes to do two things. First of all, film yourself, even if you're not going to submit the video and the app for review, still film yourself so you can see what you think you're doing and what's actually happening. Because a lot of times, especially with this movement, they're two completely different things. And second of all, when you do film this movement, make sure you film it with, if you're a guy, shirtless, sports bra, crop top, something where we can see from here down to about our waist so we can see skin, because this is the area from the rib cage, stomach, pelvis where there's the most disconnect, and a lot of times shirts can really hide that, so you'll be able to get better feedback when you're reviewing it on your own. The way we're going to start though is face down on the floor, and we're going to go from top to bottom here in terms of cueing. While I'm face down on the floor, I want my toes pointed or my feet plantar flexed. I want to squeeze my quads, because squeezing my quads are going to keep my legs tight, keep my thighs together. All too often people relax their thighs too much in a handstand, which causes them not to be making contact with each other. So you want to imagine squeezing something between your thighs. That's why I just say contract the quad or contract your thighs. Then going further up the kinetic chain, we're going to be squeezing the glutes. Then as we get up to the shoulders, I want the elbows locked out. The wrist is going to be extended. My chin is going to be on the floor looking at, I like to look at essentially my thumb right here. I'm in the world's smallest gym, so when I do this with both arms, but since you can just see right here, I'm doing it with one arm. So please do not do this with one arm. This is just because I'm limited in space right now. So elbow locked out, wrist extended, chin on the floor. And now in this position, I'm thinking about two things. I'm thinking about shrugging my shoulder towards my ear or reaching my hand further out in front of me, while simultaneously I'm thinking about closing the space from my armpit into the floor. So I'm thinking about pushing my armpit into the floor. What that's going to look like here from top to bottom, I'm going to go through the cues. I'm going to get on my stomach, point the toes, squeeze the quads, squeeze the glutes, shrug my shoulders, push my armpit into the floor, continuing to go through that kind of list in my head. Toes, quads, glutes, shrug and reach. So now what I want you to see what happens here with my pelvis as I'm doing this. So I'm going to lift up my shirt just enough so we can see it here. So watch what happens here. I'm not worried, because all too often people obsess about rounding their lower back or keeping a hollow body here. I just want you to think of just a neutral or a normal lumbar spine position. Don't overthink it in this position, because all the other cues are going to set us up. When you start thinking about doing something with your lower back, what inevitably happens is we end up piking. So this is correct here. What I want to see is what I'm demoing right now. Now what happens is when people start piking their hips, we get something like this, where the hips are lifting up off the floor, we're piking at the waist, and that's not going to translate to a good line. It's going to translate into this pike position where the feet most of the time are behind our shoulders, and it's going to create a lot of problems later on. So please don't do anything with the lumbar spine. Think about all the other cues, and that's going to set us up for success with this movement.